back with episode 4 of the Anxiety and Athletes YouTube series. Two amazing guests with me today. Really excited to have them here with us and be able to hear their stories and their experiences within athletics. And, before we get started, just want to make sure that everybody knows this recording is educational purposes only and not intended to replace therapy. For treatment-related questions, please work with your provider or contact a local clinician. You can use the IOCDF's online resource directory at iocdf.org/find-help to locate a trained clinician near you. The International OCD Foundation is not a crisis hotline. If you are in a crisis or you ever feeling suicidal or unsafe, please go to your local emergency room or call 911 or the suicide prevention hotline at 800-273-8255. So we're going to share some really good experiences here in just a moment. But before I get there, I just want to introduce our two phenomenal guests. Jeremy Golden was named actually just recently the head strength and conditioning coach for men's and women's hockey at the University of Minnesota Duluth this past July. So having a fresh start there. Prior to this, he spent 3 years as the director of strength and conditioning for women's basketball at UVA in Virginia. And over the past decade, he's worked with various NCAA D1 athletes before arriving in Duluth. He also worked as the assistant director of athletic performance at the University of New Mexico and was also the director of sports performance at Santa Clara University. He also spent 6 years as an assistant strength and conditioning coach at Cornell and 1 year working with the Friars women's basketball team at Providence College. So, definitely has the background we're looking for here to share on so much experience that he's had. And he's been in a lot of different venues and different atmospheres. So we're looking forward to hearing more from Jeremy. So thanks so much for coming on. I appreciate it, Jeremy.
Tom, thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here. I think this is something I've wanted to talk about for a long time. So it's just it's a privilege to be here and be part of this series.
I'm glad you think so. I'm glad to have you. Our next guest is Bride Kennedy. Bride, can you tell me how to pronounce your last name so I don't butcher it?
Hopoate.
Hopoate. All right. So, I'd rather you say it than I say it. So Bride has played basketball for 15 years. She played at University of New Mexico. She played at Iowa State. So two very high level NCAA Division I basketball programs. She is now playing professionally overseas. She played in the NBL 1 for Norwood Flames in Red City, and she recently played in Egypt in the Egyptian Super League, and then just finished playing for the Southwest Pirates in the NBL 1 competition. So she's been also was represented Australia U16s, U18s, and U20s, and at the U17 team for the FIBA Oceania Championships and won gold there. So Brady has a extensive experience as a high level athlete. So it takes a lot of courage, for somebody in your position to speak about mental health because it's been so stigmatized for so long. So we really appreciate you sharing your experiences here with us today.
Thanks for having me.
Of course, and I know you've been traveling a lot, so thanks for making it happen.
Yeah, no, for sure.
So, we'll dive right in here. I think this topic has definitely been prevalent and persistent, but also commonly swept under the rug. So I'd love to just, Jeremy, to start with you with your experience and how you've seen the stigma of mental health grow throughout your time as a strength coach, from being an assistant at Cornell to, now being at Minnesota Duluth with two premier hockey teams.
Yeah, I think I've probably seen more than I ever envisioned of seeing, good and bad. Mental health is something that really, when I started at Cornell, it wasn't talked about. It was just all about, you got to be tough. You got to be tough. You got to grind. You got to, you got to work. and you can't show weakness. A lot of that. I saw a lot of that, but I think the way I coach is I'm very personable with the way I coach. I want to get to know the athlete as a person as much as an athlete, because I feel like that helps me, one, communicate with them better than anything, but two, really learn about what it takes for them to be great. And then that helps me program for them. And I think by my coaching style, that's where I saw a lot of the mental health issues, because I had a lot of athletes who were willing to open up about it. And it really opened my eyes to, wow, this is a problem. And, and then as I've been around and seen different schools, I've really seen it grow and develop into something that needs to be talked about. And people want to talk about it now. I think that's the most important thing I've seen, and especially in the last 4 or 5 years, is people really want to talk about it. And I don't think people want to understand it, but they want to talk about it. And what I've noticed a lot is people want to use it as a crutch and not what it is, which is a serious issue that is really affecting a lot of people. And so my goal, especially in my position, is to really, just like I said, understand the athlete, understand them as a person, and know that not every day is going to be a great day for them. Just because we're asking so much of them. And I think as fans, and I'm sure every fan out there can attest to this, we watch these athletes and we think they're superhuman. I mean, I can watch Bridie on the court and it's crazy because I could see her in a very vulnerable, awful state 20 minutes before practice, and then go out to practice or a game and just ball out like nothing ever happened. But there's a lot of stuff behind that. And I think for me working, and for you, for us working in this environment where we're so close on the performance side of things, it's got to be talked about, because we're on the inside of this. We have to know that after the game, there's life. And that's really how I approach, especially, everything I do. And now being here with very high level hockey teams, I still see it every day, and I still have to be very wary of the fact that, hey, these athletes still have real life stuff going on, especially in the summertime. They're working jobs. They're traveling. They're doing different things. Their lives are not stopping because they have to get ready for hockey. They just have to get ready for their sport.
Right. Yeah, for sure. And I think, it goes along with saying, our position is a lot more than reps and sets. And that's something that Jeff Eaton from Oregon, now at University of Miami, said on the first episode of our web series. Our job is so unique, and something that I always say is we don't determine playing time. Mm-hmm. So we're in a position where we're getting to know the athlete and showing them a process of just getting better. Like, that is our sole purpose of bettering that, helping them better themselves mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally, right? So socially. So we're in a position where them telling us and confiding in us isn't going to cost them playing time or a stigma, expectation from their coach, and being looked down at by their coach, because we're someone that really can build trust pretty easily.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. I think.
Yeah.
Sorry, Tom. I mean, I just want to echo what you're saying, that yes, we are. The word performance, I think, has so many different meanings for what we do. And, it's not just getting an athlete to get stronger or be faster. The performance side of things is so multifaceted that we have to, it really does go beyond sets and reps. It's
right. It's a holistic approach.
Yeah, exactly.
It has to be a holistic approach. I do think there's plenty of people kind of adopting that word more and more, but my thing is, are you just saying holistic approach and acting like you do it, or are you actually doing it, right? And are you actually using those holistic, qualities to make sure that you're checking in on athletes, you're using wellness questionnaires, you're talking to athletes and getting to know them as human beings, like you said, because the ball stops bouncing afterwards, and they need to be prepared for that. And then also the struggles within just playing their sport. Being a college athlete isn't an easy task. And I think there's this weird expectation that just because, especially with the NIL money now, like that they have it, easy, and that it's a privilege to even be there. But these athletes work their tail off to get there. right? So it wasn't like this was just given to them. And so, these fans and the media expects them to be perfect all the time, but in reality, that's not possible. So, Brady, I'm interested to kind of hear your experience. Obviously being such a high level player, being in the spotlight, and how that was for you at the college level.
Yeah, it was definitely a journey. I feel like your mental health is just everything, especially being an athlete. You have the demands of performing every day, turning up every day. It's the smallest things like being on time. If you're not on time, the whole team's running. You just got pressures from absolutely everywhere. Pressures in the classroom, pressures that you're performing. Um, it can like Jay said, there are days where you just don't feel like, doing basketball today, or, today is just a tough day. Um, and, those tough days can feel long, but when you've got people that, you can turn to and you can talk to, I know having Jay has played a really important role in my career. Been someone there for me to this day. And I appreciate him and everything he did for me so much. He was someone there that I could, talk to when it came to basketball side of things, how my body was feeling. Jay was that listening ear, that I needed. And I just feel like every athlete needs that, maybe more than one person, but having someone who's actually there every day and sees everything that's going on, being able to actually lean on them because they understand, you know what I mean? They see it, it's different to telling someone away from the court, what's going on. It's they don't
Absolutely.
understand because they actually don't see it. But Jay saw it every day, so he was able to relate more. And I think that definitely took a lot of stress off me, because I was able to talk to him about my struggles, and I had that extra support on the floor, even on the sideline. So yeah, I think definitely having, resources to go to, for example, student counselors and stuff like that is just, it's so important. Um, I just think one thing I was talking to Jay about was that it's so important to be able to have that relationship with trainers, your coaches, but your coaches especially, to be able to get the best out of you, and to be able to also know as an athlete how to communicate with your coach, and build that trust. Is having that two-way street of, I trust you, let's build this, bond together. This is what, we're going to do, as an athlete and as a coach and then as a team. I just think it's crucial to a team success, and an individual success in a team environment. Um, it's just having that comfortability, that supportive environment, um, just being one big family. And I can speak from experience, going to Hutchinson Community College my sophomore year, where we won the conference championship, and went to nationals. Um, that team was just full of selfless people. When it came to coaches, when it came to teammates, we were there for each other on and off the floor. If someone needed to go to the store or something, someone was there for them to drive them. You know what I mean? We'd figure it out. It was everything from on the floor to off the floor. But it was that foundation though too, and I think that's what's so important when it comes to these collegiate programs, is that having a foundation and having expectations from coaches and for athletes as well is just paramount in having a healthy environment for coaches and for athletes to be able to just flourish and thrive and to have a successful program. Um, yeah.
No, I mean, I totally agree. And I'm sure you've had experiences where, like you just, the one you just described, where that team was a family, and you guys there was a bunch of unselfish people there. And then you've had teams where that wasn't the case. And I think a lot of that starts from the top down, right? And I think, the leaders of the program are the coaches, right? Naturally, they're the ones that recruit you. They're the ones that bring people in and bring a group together. So having coaches that create a culture and an atmosphere that make it accepting to talk about mental health is crucial to the development of a team and the comfortability factor of knowing that you have people to rely on when you're struggling.
Yeah, no, exactly right. I can speak from firsthand experience. For example, I was struggling with my weight at one point in college, and I had physical issues that I had to deal with, and then I was dealing with other issues away from the court. And, it was a time that I just needed that little bit of extra, help, that little bit of extra push, and, some people just, didn't know. And I felt like, I couldn't really speak up on that. And I feel like it's just something that, is also a big thing when it comes to being an athlete, is that we're constantly having to watch what we're eating. Are we eating enough? Are we eating the right foods? Are we sleeping enough? No, I was just really, honestly, I'm really grateful for my collegiate journey, because I went to 4 different schools, and a lot of people will think, wow, that's a bit crazy or maybe a bit unstable. But it actually was such a blessing, because I was able to experience basketball at different levels. I was able to experience a bunch of different people in different circumstances, and see how they were as people, their mindsets. And being in the collegiate, being in the JUCO environment was just so different to being in a Division 1 environment.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, felt a lot more togetherness, especially being that we won that championship at Hutch that year. And it was just that we had each other's backs. Like I said, everyone was just completely selfless, would do anything for each other. And that was really one of the best years of my college career. I wouldn't even say performance wise, it just was an absolute grind, but I absolutely loved every moment of it, because I had amazing support from my teammates and my coaches. We were all on the same page. We all had the same understanding of, what we were trying to do together as a team, and what that was going to take. And we respected our coaches completely, and we respected each other. And, I'm just extremely grateful for those people. Still to this day, we're all still in a group chat. And I think, having friendships like that and bonds like that is very rare, especially out of college. You're bringing in a bunch of young women or young men, different age groups, completely different backgrounds.
Right. A lot of them were also like the best players on their high school teams too.
Yeah,
You got
exactly
some
right.
egos for sure. Anybody that says they don't have an ego, that's a lie. You literally are born with an ego, right? Like everybody has an ego. So because everybody has a personality, and a personality is a type of ego. And so, I think it's really interesting bringing so many high level players that probably were the first option on their team, and then you're bringing them together and saying, all right, make it work.
Yeah. No, exactly right. No, exactly right. And yeah, we did. We made it work. And yeah, comparing that to my D1 experience, I felt like in D1 that there was more pressure. Like, it's hard to even put into words. I just felt like it was honestly straight up like a really uncomfortable environment. It just felt like everything was just, not to say that things that are professional, should be uncomfortable or anything like that. But it was just a really uptight environment at times, and you just felt like you couldn't be, your human self, if that makes sense, invulnerable.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, you're almost walking on eggshells, and I feel like that's
Yeah.
a really common thing in athletic departments in general. When I used to get a text from like administration, and they'd be like, "Can you come upstairs quick?" I'd be like, "Oh gosh, what do I do now?" Like, there's just like this weird divide between performance coaches and administration, and just I found that I wanted to share my experiences with mental health, and I was told I couldn't. by my supervisors, that I was too transparent. And then, you have people, meanwhile, we have athletes that are disabled with mental health and going through and suffering in silence, and sharing a story might literally save their life. But they don't want their college to be associated with that. And they don't want their college to be associated with the words mental illness. And so I feel like as performance coaches, and I'm sure Jeremy can test this, we're held to this standard of everything that we teach athletes to be. And so if I'm only teaching athletes to be perfect, then I'm expecting myself to be perfect, right? And I'm not perfect, right? Like one of the things we say as a lead advocate for this foundation is that, like, my struggle still exists, right? When I was diagnosed with OCD at age 15 and went into treatment, and was suicidal, and got past treatment, and I still go to treatment, right? Like I still struggle. There's ups and downs, there's bad days, there's good days. And so, like, the thing about being an advocate is that for mental health is that being vulnerable is way more powerful and way more uplifting, and so much more telling than just telling people to get over it or be perfect, or just showing your wins. Showing athletes losses and different negative experiences that they go through in life is going to help them more long term.
Yeah, no, completely agree with you on that one.
Jeremy, I don't know if you have anything to add.
Yeah, I mean, I think the one thing I think about is, and I've said this in job interviews, I've said this to coaches, I've said this to athletes, I don't want robots. I don't want the kind of training session that is just going to be so robotic that you go from point A to point B to point C to point D because you have to. And it's almost like you're on an assembly line, like see the robots on an assembly line. And like, I don't want that. We're all human beings, like I said earlier. And, I think you touched on that point about being vulnerable. We don't have to tell the athletes our whole life story. We don't have to say everything, but we have to at least let them know that we're human. Because if we come at them with this, like, this nasty look on our face, and we're like, it's time to go, let's go. Like, it's great and all, but it doesn't work like it used to work. And I guess what I'm saying, like we're in a different age now. We're in a different time where we really need to be human and more communicative more than ever at this point in coaching and in athletics. And I think we have a duty as coaches to be able to make what we do on the performance side of things, like you said, holistic, the whole approach, and make it a positive experience for them. Make it something that it's going to be beneficial, not just for their performance in their sport, but for their performance in life. Right.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I'm interested to Bride and Jeremy, because you both worked. I haven't worked in professional sports, right? You've competed, Bride, in a professional realm, and Jeremy, you were head strength and conditioning coach for the Sparks at one point. I'm interested to hear the difference between college and professional, and where the line of stigma was there with mental health.
It was never talked about. I mean, I think, when I was at the Sparks, it was a long time ago, but I mean, it just wasn't talked about. It was such a business at that point that it was just all about the business. And I think, I went in, I trained the athletes, and you left, there wasn't a lot of in between in my experience. I think it's changed now. I think maybe that probably wasn't the best example.
Right.
Sort of a transition year for the Sparks. So it was a different time. I was also a very young strength coach that was probably naive to a lot of mental health issues at that point.
For sure.
But it wasn't really discussed in my time in the pros.
Mm-hmm. And I'm interested also to hear, how the stigma around mental health and athletics has affected your own mental health, within athletics too.
It's tough. I'm not going to lie. I think you can't not take it home. I don't care what anybody says. It's too hard of a job. You can't not take it home. And it's definitely affected my mental health in many ways. I've had my own struggles still do to this day. And, I have to take time for myself. I have to take time to manage it. And I think one thing I've learned through that is you have to step away when you can step away. You can't grind 24/7, 365. Early on in my career, I grinded that much. I grinded 80, 90-hour weeks. And it took a toll on me physically, mentally, emotionally. And I think it caught up with me physically and mentally the last few years. And that's when I took sort of a time out and said, I better start watching out for me. I better start taking care of me because I can't take care of anybody else if I'm not taking care of me.
Mm. Yeah, I totally agree.
It definitely can wear on you. And I think that's another forgotten thing that we could probably have a whole discussion on as well is what is the mental health grind for coaches?
Yeah, it's not talked about at all. And I think in my experience, right, like if you start complaining about working 80-hour weeks, then you're considered soft or not a workhorse or, not willing to put it to pay your dues or whatever it is called. You know what I mean? Like just because you don't want to work 80-hour weeks, where in no other profession is are people, expected to work that much. And it's just this ongoing cycle that, I really hope we can break.
I hope so. I think it comes down to, I think something we've discussed off camera is about the perfection, about trying to be perfect, and you've talked about it here too. Like we're expected to be perfect every second of every day. And I've now learned to laugh at myself. Like if I make a mistake in the weight room, which we all do, I just make a joke about it and laugh and move on.
Right.
I'm human like everybody else is. And I think that also eases the athletes I'm training. That eases their minds to know, hey, he is human. Okay, he's going to make a mistake. He's going to own it. We're going to move on.
Right. Yeah, Bridie. So tell me a little bit about, your experiences playing professionally now and how that differs from the college realm and, the role it plays in your mental health. And then also I am interested to hear, how training and how, training for your sport actually helped mental health, because there are positive effects to training, but there is a line, right? Because so we, what we say here, anxiety athletes, is that mental illness doesn't help your career and your athletic career. A lot of times people think especially with OCD, that doing, compulsions is going to help, like because you took X amount of shots a day but really that anxiety is crippling and it's really not actually helping. And so our message, with anxiety in athletes is that OCD and anxiety and every other mental health disorder does not help performance. But I do think training can help mental health to an extent, as long as you're not focused on perfection.
Yeah, no. So I'm glad that you really broke that down, because this is something that I've definitely struggled with, and I know that Jay knows this. Is that I've been an athlete since I was like 5 years old. I was a track athlete before I did basketball. So I played a sport that was very technical, that was very to the T. The smallest little movement could mean just that much more, on either my length or my time, when it came to track. So when it came to basketball, and then especially college, and then transitioning to being a pro, it was pretty uncomfortable because I was so used to just go, being slammed all the time. When it comes to college and you're playing at a high level D1, even a JUCO, you're just having to wake up early. You've got lift for 2 hours, and you've got class, and you've got practice for 3-4 hours. You're running the whole time. You're competing the whole time. Then you've got to find the energy to make sure you're eating, right? You're getting that back into yourself, but you're doing recovery also too. And then, you've got study hall, and then you've got whatever else you got to go to all in one day, and it's repeat, 5 to 6 days of the week. And transitioning to being a pro it was a relief in a sense. I actually was quite lucky. I thought it was going to be actually a burden on my career having a whole year off. I had been playing basketball for 12 years straight, and I had never had a break. And I had all of 2020 off, and I came back in 2021. And to my surprise, I came back and was playing the best basketball that I've ever played in my career. And it was having that break. I didn't realize how much recovery my body actually needed. It made me realize that you don't get enough physical break in college or mental. You know, we die for those 1-2 day, you know, we're off in a row, you know what I mean? Like for the week type thing. That is like gold for us as collegiate athletes, you know. And having that year off just made me realize so much about my mental and my physical health. Like I needed that downtime, especially after playing for so long. But it just made me realize that, you know, sometimes slowing things down and actually doing a little bit less actually gives you that much more, and you don't realize it though until it happens to you. And honestly, that was the biggest, you know, eye-opening experience for me. And now being a pro, it's made me realize, no, I don't need to go work out, you know, do this and this and this 3-4 times a day. You know, if my body doesn't feel up to it today, it doesn't feel up to it. So then I'm going to go get recovery, and I'm going to go get in the hot cold baths. You know, I'm going to go do something else, substitute something else in for that to make that feel better. Because then it's also too, then that guilty, oh my gosh, I'm not doing something today. I'm not getting better today. You know what I mean? And that's something that I really had to actually become comfortable with, actually coach myself to be comfortable with knowing that, no, I'm actually getting something out of it. Maybe if I don't even feel it right now, but I'll see it in my game and I'll see it in my recovery in a couple of weeks, you know, that I'm feeling good. I'm not feeling overloaded. I don't feel, you know, my ITB pulling or my knee hurting or, you know, something like that. You know what I mean? And it's that those 1%ers that I've actually learned now as a pro is that getting 1% better today is better than nothing at all. And learning to actually, you know, be appreciative and be grateful for where I am and that I am here right now is something that has helped me so much as an athlete and as a person and with my mental health. You know, being able to be like, you're healthy. You know, that's something that is amazing. And we don't realize that, honestly, really until I feel like, you know, you're either in college or you're coming out of college being a pro, is that if you're not healthy, you can't play basketball. And if you can't play basketball, that's definitely going to affect your mental health. And that might affect your pockets, you know, when you're a pro athlete. You know what I mean? So that's something that I've really had to learn to grasp and understand and teach myself, is to actually slow things down a little bit in certain you know, aspects of my life. You know, everybody's completely different. You know, our bodies are different, our mindsets are different. You know, sports are different, demands are different. But I just think, you know, that is something that's so powerful for athletes. And I think is a very big principle, an important principle for not only an individual's mental health, but just for their sport and their life in general.
For sure.
You know, is being
you
able
make so
to.
many. Sorry, no, you make so many good points. I was just thinking about, and one of my biggest pet peeves as a college strength coach when I was in the college setting was when coach would be like, "All right, you have a day off," and then you'd be like, "But you got shots at 12, getting shots up at 12 o'clock," and I'm like, that's not a day off. Like you're literally on the court. Like
Yeah.
a day off means do not think about the sport, playing the sport. Do not just relax. Like that was always my biggest pet peeve was like, okay, there's still wear and tear and getting volume on a court. Like that's not a day off. So if any coach listening, if you give athletes a day off, give it a real day off. Don't give them a fake day off and have them have team meetings and make them come down to the arena to get shots up. Give them a real day off because that's what they need. Second thing that you touched on briefly is the need for feeling like you need to get something done, and I feel like that's so instilled in athletics. I've had so many athletes come back to me after graduating because they work out and then they're like they feel like they didn't just absolutely crush themselves every time. So then they're like, I didn't do enough. And I'm like, listen, you don't need to crush yourself. Like, you didn't need to do it in college either. They just made you feel like that. Like, it's work training is putting stress on the body, but it doesn't need to be ultimate stress that makes us want to pass out every time, right? And so most of the times I'd say it shouldn't be that, right? And so there's this weird expectation that you need to be dog tired after every training session. And so then when people graduate and stop playing their sport and they want to keep working out, to stay healthy, they end up kind of lost and in that middle section of, well, I'm not working hard enough because I'm not, sweating, or I'm not dog tired. And then the third thing that you touched on that's really, really important is the 1% better thing. I actually have that on my whiteboard right now. 1% better every day is something I tell my athletes 24/7, 365. The sum of 0.01 each day is way greater than, being, sometimes great and then, slacking off, right? Like just hitting, one thing every day that you improved yourself on is, I would say, like, being consistently very good is better than being sometimes great. And so that's something that I always carry with me. So, I mean, such excellent points there. I think I think, us as performance coaches can explain training in a way that almost helps people after college and after they graduate. Like, I had an athlete earlier ask me more like about why we're doing certain things. And I love when athletes ask me that, because I know that's going to help them understand why we're doing things and get them, one, it builds trust, but also two, after school and after they're done, with their athletic career, they'll take those principles with them and understand things more.
Yeah, and I'm gonna add to this too. I think like you talked about getting 1% better and you said consistency, Tom. I think that's something I preach every day. It's all about consistency. If you're consistent, you're gonna be great. And that's where I think the pros really get it. The pros that last, the pros that are successful. And look at any great player in any sport, from Tom Brady to Kobe to Michael Jordan to, you name it. They knew about the process. And I had a coach ask me at one point, like, hey, why do you think, what do you think we didn't look good in the playoffs? We didn't look great here, or what do you think it is? I said, consistency. It's just about consistency. Like, if you're consistent in what you do every day, and it doesn't have to be a lot. Like you said, you may only feel like doing a little bit, but that's more than enough. It doesn't have to break you down, because, and I've explained this to athletes, I think I've explained it to Bride a number of times, we're in the job of breaking down muscle. That's what we're doing in the weight room.
Right.
The job outside of the weight room is to build it back up. So if you're constantly breaking it down, you're never building back up. So you're constantly in a broken down state.
Right.
And
I have this really good graphic that we made with anxiety in athletes and about how recovery drives adaptation, right? And so, like, training, right, like you said, is putting stress on the body. We are literally putting stress on the body, but the stress on the body isn't what creates the adaptation. It's the recovery piece. And so we as performance coaches need to preach that more.
100%. I mean, it's the most important part of the training. I think I sometimes get frustrated when I see athletes and coaches go on social media and say, we're making gains with somebody squatting heavy. That's great. Yes, I'm glad. But you're not making the gains there. You're making the gains outside of the weight room. And I'm probably going to get yelled at for saying that, but we're part of this process, and it has to be the whole process. The weight room is very important. The running is very important. The recovery has to be just as important.
Yeah, no, it's so true. And I think it's important to remember they're all intertwined, and sometimes I feel like strength coaches get so big-headed about, like, we are the process. No, we are a part of the process, right?
Yep.
We are a part of the athletes' lives. We are a part of helping them improve themselves in all facets. We are not the only answer, right? So, and I think we, as much as some coaches want to be the only answer, that's not how it works, right? As as tough as it is, they are playing a sport, and their job. They didn't go to school to be weightlifters or power lifters or training phenoms. They came to school to compete at a high level for their sport.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
So, guys, I really appreciate this conversation. We might actually have to do a part 2 at some point because there's so much we could keep talking about. But we're running out of time a little bit. But I just want to give you guys some each of you, last final thoughts to viewers and anything else you want to make sure that we add in here.
You go, Jay.
Okay. I think really just understand the communication aspect and take time to get to know your athletes as people, because that's going to not only make you a better coach from a strength and conditioning standpoint or a coaching standpoint, it's going to make you a better coach in terms of how you come across to your athlete. You become more of a reliable person to them when they trust you and you trust them. So the trust has got to be built, and that comes by getting to know each other.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. I couldn't agree with you more, Jay. And I think that's something that, I can speak on, that I've experienced firsthand, with Jeremy being my strength conditioning coach. He's someone that goes above and beyond. He loves what he does. And he puts his best foot forward always and does what he can, for his athletes, and shows them, that he's got their backs and that he's got that support for them in the weight room and outside of that. For like Jeremy would always, be asking, how are you? How are things? Every time you walk past him, how are you feeling? Just always being concerned because he cares, and I think, that's something that really, really goes a long way and will go a long way, for not only, your job, but, just, in regards to relationships and, building a great culture and program. And it's definitely, instrumental to, the success of a program. It's just one of the pieces to it all.
For sure. No, I mean, I think it goes without saying that, your athletes are human first and athletes second, right? And I think the more we can kind of treat them that way, I think the better off they'll be past their athletic life too. And because obviously they have so many years after their athletic life too. So, it's such an important topic. And I really, really appreciate both of you coming on to kind of share your experiences, and we can definitely continue this conversation at another time again.